Oh, that's a good sound, isn't it? Just cracked a mercury cider there. We're having another day in paradise. It's Sunday night, the little one's in bed, so that's always a good thing. This is the first video we're going to upload to YouTube, so let's get started. Today we're going to be making some curry puffs. Now, I got this recipe kind of from Google, and then I kind of looked at it at the shops and went, oh yeah, that looks easy enough, and then went home and tried to make it. Step one to every recipe that's going to come on this channel is we're going to crack a drink. That's the Queensland way. You're going to see a lot of that here. So, while we're cooking, there's always going to be drinking, and if you're doing it any other way, then I reckon you're probably doing it wrong. You got to have a drink while you're having a cook. You got some pumpkin, onion, sweet potato. We got some normal potato, there's still some dirt on them. We got some whole green lentils, and we got some garlic, some curry powder, and some stock powder. Not too many ingredients going in. We've also got some split peas. First step we're going to do is put a cup of peas in to 2 cups of lentils, and we're going to add some water and get that to a hard boil. As you can see, it's boiling pretty hard. Go ahead and peel them potatoes up, put the peels away. We don't actually need those, but we do need the potatoes. Yeah, hopefully you're better with a knife than I am, but go ahead and chop them spuds up. It doesn't really matter how you cut them because it's just going to turn into a mush at the end anyway. The smaller you cut them, the quicker they're going to turn to that mush, so it's up to you how you want to cut them. You can even just chuck them in whole, really. There's my beautiful wife Tori, just grabbing a little snack. And yeah, let's cut up that sweet potato now. Don't mind my knife skills, again I'm a home cook, just here to have some fun and show you some plant-based recipes. Add your potato and sweet potato to the pot, give her a bit of a stir. Should still be boiling pretty hard now because we really want to cook them bad boys down. That'll take the longest to cook, so while they're starting to boil we'll peel the pumpkin. Whether you want to use a knife or a peeler is up to you. I prefer using a knife.
Says, where are they? Says the man camping one little spot of the map.
Go ahead and put the pumpkin in the bowl. All of it, even that tiny little bit left on the cutting board. On the other hot plate we're going to get a fry pan going. I'm going to turn it up to about 4 out of 9 on mine. We're going to cut up the onion. We're going to slice that nice and thin because we want to start caramelizing the onion into the bowl it goes. I made a mess when I put it in, so that's why there's no video showing me putting it in the bowl. There's my wife Tori again, grabbing some chocolate. Garlic gets chopped up, put it in the fry pan with the onion and the oil, give it a bit of a stir, and we're going to let that brown until it looks a little something like that. Take that bad boy out, put him in a bowl and set him off to the side. As you can see, sweet potato and the peas and lentils are still boiling. While they're on the boil, we're going to go ahead and put some baking paper down on some trays. Depending on how much you want to make or how many you want to do in one time, depends on how many trays you're going to need. If you've only got one tray, that's fine. I always like to have a bit of baking paper on the counter as well, just for the puff pastry. I don't really like working on it directly on the counter. So here's a little time lapse of me waiting for it to boil. My beautiful daughter Alara came to say g'day, and I'm showing her how to stir. She's nearly big enough to stand up on the counter and do it herself, as you can tell, but she's a little bit lazy, so not just yet. Oh, this is beer number 2. This recipe actually took me 2 beers to make, or 2 drinks. I'm actually drinking mercury cider. I have a pretty bad habit of just calling anything in a can of beer. So if you're going to hang around the channel for a while, you get used to that. Alright, so we've let it boil for long enough now. What we're going to do is strain the water out. I don't actually have footage of this because I'm not very good at planning ahead, so maybe next time we'll be a bit better at that. But it should look pretty much like slop at the moment, and the potato and the sweet potato and the pumpkin should pretty much turn to mush as you press it against the edge of the saucepan there. So we've strained the water out. We're going to get the masher, give her a good old mash. This is probably one of the most fun parts. I almost left the sound in, but didn't because it actually sounded pretty weird. add in the caramelized onion and garlic. We're going to add in the stock powder and the curry powder now as well. This is really up to you how much you want to add. I started with 2 teaspoons of stock powder and a dash and then some of curry powder. I ended up adding a little bit more a bit later, but that's okay. The important thing is you stir it through evenly, and we just do that with a masher. As we're doing that, I pretty much kept just tasting it and checking to see whether it was any good. It's up to you guys how you want it to taste. You can add any other seasoning or herbs in here that you like. I like to keep it pretty basic because generally I'll have this with a aioli or Raider or something like that. When it's all mashed up, it should look something like this. Flatten it out. You can see the masher stands on top of the paste there, so it's nice and thick, which is what we want. We don't want it too moist because then it's going to turn the puff pastry to basically slop. We want it to be nice and puffy at the end. I'm going to cut our sheet of puff pastry into 4 squares, and then what we're going to do is take the knife and roughly cut from each corner halfway into the center. And this is one folding technique. I'm pretty much just winging it here, but it worked out pretty well. Take a spoonful or so, don't mind fingers. Like I said, home cook, we're going to use fingers here. Have a little taste. Spoon some on to each bit of puff pastry, and then what we're going to do is start from one corner, fold the puff pastry to the center, and then go to the next corner of the next cut and go around in one direction, taking each corner individually, so it almost forms a pinwheel shape. And then all we do is the reverse of that, so we start at the corner we left on and fold it back into the center, and it creates a nice little ball for us. Get them into the shape you like, put them on your baking tray, rinse and repeat. There's a bit of a time lapse here, you can watch me do it over and over and over again. Once you've got enough on a tray, go ahead and open the oven, put them in. I was cooking them on about 200. The mixture inside is already cooked, so really all we're doing is cooking the puff pastry here. We want them to brown up nice and get reasonably puffy. We're not going to go over the top. While we've got one tray in the oven, we're going to go ahead and tray up the next lot. Rinse and repeat again. I was pretty generous with the servings. You probably, looking back, I could have put a little bit less on each, but I don't want people to eat them and feel like they've been ripped off. So I like to be a little bit generous. So at the end of it, we're going to go ahead and take them out of the oven. I did some sausage roll style ones as well there, but they didn't turn out amazingly, so I'm glad I stuck to the pinwheel style for the rest of them. There's my beautiful wife Tori helping me plate them up, and we'll get the money shot here, which you guys will get to see in a minute. Don't mind me holding the knife the wrong way here. We'll just pretend it didn't happen and turn it around, and I'll edit that out later. But the pastry is nice and crispy, the filling's nice and soft, the flavor is unreal. All in all, it wasn't a hard recipe to make. It's not the quickest, but it did make an absolute shitload. Like, I've been eating these for about 3 days now for SMOKO. So that's the idea with most of my cooking. I like to make a whole bunch and prep meals for the week, basically. So if you're into curry puffs, it's nice and easy, it's pretty chill, there's a lot of waiting, which I don't mind because that's just more time for drinking. If you're into that kind of stuff and you want to see some more of the things I make at home, then by all means stick around. If you decide to give these a go yourself, tag me, let me know how it went. Let me know if you did anything different. I'm always open for some feedback. If you enjoyed it, feel free to drop a like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.